The ProAct Know-How.
Hi, this is ProAct Sam. We have moved to our new year, new office location, and we're still sort of making up things, and we've got a lighting issue and online issue at the moment, but we wanted to get through to you and bring you our New Year's greeting, and also preview some of the things that are going to happen for expats living and working abroad in the next few days and weeks. If you're not already ordered a copy of our online our desktop calendar for the new year, it's free. You just have to go to our website at proactpartnership.com and download a free copy of the calendar. So go and look and have a look at it and see some of the dates. The most important date after the new year for some countries in Europe, like Russia, Spain, Greece and Cyprus, is the 6th of January, which is another public holiday. It's the Epiphany. So somebody's coming, and who knows what that might be given the events that are going on in the world today. But we know for sure by the end of this month Brexit is likely to happen, in that the new British government have got a mandate. The second passing of the Withdrawal Treaty Act in the UK Parliament, so it'll go through that process to enable with the EU Parliament ratification for the UK to be out of the EU by the end of January. And then there's all the huff and the puffing about the trade talks. This is the vested interest again. This is big companies interested in their self-interest in the status quo. Now that Brexit is assured, then those big companies that even up to and including the general election, the British CBI was still advocating an anti-Brexit approach. Those big interests now have to accept that they need to go on. There's a P&O ferry called the Pride of Britain. Now, in the world of shipping, every ship has to be registered in a country. Now, the P&O ferry running out from the south of England, called the Pride of Britain, for example, that has been re-registered in anticipation of Brexit in Cyprus. So the Pride of Britain ferry for PO is now registered in Cyprus, and this is how big companies have considered how they need to adapt their business post-Brexit. We know what the rules are for non-EU companies, for non-EU citizens, and that's the worst case scenario. We've got a transition period that effectively starts today. Even whether Brexit happens before or after, nothing much will change initially. For individual citizens, the UK is still bound to work within the EU rules until the end of this year. So families and business got time to get their businesses, their trading arrangements, their healthcare, their taxes in line before the end of the year, and that obviously starts now for good planning and to stop the panic right at the end. We saw that a few times last year coming up to the deadlines. By planning ahead, you can get there safely and securely to protect your family's property, business, assets while you're living and working abroad, and that's what we're aiming to do. EasyJet, another company that have registered an overseas branch, so they can continue to operate throughout the EU. So any UK business that wants to operate in Cyprus, or Cyprus an EU business that wants to operate in the UK, then it's about creating a corporate identity, a branch with representatives in that other country to allow you to carry on to trade within the EU. Service companies are always different to trade companies, and that's all to be seen. So that's an action that needs to be taken. And with tax returns for 2019 becoming due now, that'll be the last lot under the new rules, and then we'll be moving into the new world and the new regime. So what will your tax status be? So what will your residency be? So it needs to be introduced and updated. So EU expats in the UK should take on a settled status, while UK expats should take on a permanent residency in their EU country of residence. If they're not entitled to that settled status or permanent residency because they've not been there for 5 years, then getting registered initially on a pre-settled basis in the UK or just a basic ID registration in another EU country starts that process to allow you to live and remain working in that country under the current EU rules. So what else can we do? We've got tax returns that are due now. So any country that has an annual tax return based upon the calendar year, it's the 3rd of January. So those tax returns are due now. In Cyprus, they've introduced a health system tax. So now that tax is potentially due on worldwide income. So even if you were earning money from working abroad or from overseas rental income back in the UK, that income could now be subject to this additional health insurance tax. If you've got pension income, that could be subject to health insurance tax. The only exemption are those people that have got an S1. So if you haven't got an S1, you've got an entitlement to it through age or student status or ill health, then now's the time to get one organised and get that negotiated. Well, the UK is still in the EU. We're looking forward on that, but to keep in touch, you can download a copy of our healthcare guide at our website at productpartnership.com. The UK tax returns are due to the end of April. So if you are living and working abroad, then we're coming up to that time of year. So if you need to make any adjustments to your income or capital position, or to your non-residency status, if you become resident before the end of the tax year, then you can then take in capital gains liabilities and defer any UK taxation on them. So that's a possibility. A country like Cyprus has no capital gains tax on many areas. So it's a way of mitigating an upcoming capital gains tax from a business or investment disposal. Again, talk about that and get that planning for that tax residency and that tax registration, that UK return that needs to be done in April 2020 for the 1920 year. There's lots of things that people can do in a little way to plan their business. We know what the worst case scenario is and we know what the best case is. So within the EU, there's free trade, free movement, and that will continue, and it'll continue within the EEA as well. So Norway and Switzerland and Iceland in the EEA will continue to have this free trade zone. But don't forget that within the EU, it's free, although you pay VAT. Outside the EU, there's tariffs for many different people around the world. So all those potential tariffs for non-EU goods and services could potentially be removed by the end of 2020. So things will change, but if you need to keep working within the EU zone, do you need a branch in the UK or do you need a branch in the EU? Contact us at productpartnership.com. We cover all these issues in our updated guide for how the Brexit arrangement is going to affect expats in the UK and in the EU. You can download a copy of that at our website again at productpartnership.com. Anyone who buys a copy of that guide will also get the free calendar. So you have two ways to get the calendar, and hope you enjoy one or the other. It's really important that you take stock of what you want. Once you get over the end of a tax year, you're locked in. So whether that's the UK tax year, the 5th of April, or the more common annual calendar year tax year for countries like Cyprus. So once you're locked in, that's fine. What do you want your tax residency to be going forward? What's going to suit your business? What do you need to do to register your work, your income, your business, living and working abroad in the UK or in the EU? so that you can continue to enjoy the tax freedoms and lifestyle freedoms of an expat without the disruption and the doom and gloom that some of the big businesses will get because they're doing a stuck in the sand approach. It's a handheld, quick webinar today without face makeup, and I hope that wasn't too gruesome for you. Keep following our webinar every Friday, looking at issues affecting expats in the UK and the EU and how we can help and assist with their residency taxation and business setup. Contact us at proactpartnership.com, info@proactpartnership.com, and we'll see you again next week for the next live webinar.
The ProAct Know-How, brought to you by ProAct.